Masscom students, today we are going to discuss Cbse board syllabus, and we will be discussing unit 2, which broadly talks about introduction of the production process of various mediums like film, TV, print. Now web is also important, radio. As per Cbse syllabus, these two are for practical, whereas these three, they are for theory. So we will now talk about, first we will begin with print, then we will move to film, then TV. All right, let's go. So before we dive into print media, the process involved in producing print, it's important for you to know what a print media is and how it looks like. So here I have an example of Hindustan Times. This is a newspaper cutout, or you can say screenshot. So you see in this newspaper, this is the name of the newspaper where they mention the place. Like, I'm from Delhi, so my location is Delhi, and the day is Wednesday, and today is September 11. So as you can see here, this part is headline, and this is the story, and this name, as you can see over here, the name over here, they are the people involved who wrote this story. Okay, this photograph is being taken by a photojournalist, or I can see here AFP. So this photograph is outsourced from agency AFP. Okay, and it's done by photojournalist. This photo is taken by photojournalist, and this part is done by reporters, then sub editors, then editors. So we will read all about these profiles later on. So these all people, they are the part of editing, you can say, or you can say the publication department, basically the content part. Now as you can see, this entire part, let me reduce the size. So as you can see, this part is purely an advertisement, right? But this content is not written by the newspaper people. It's written by the ad agency who has given their ad in this newspaper. Okay, so this is front page. Okay, front page. As we move further, this part is called infographic. It's a headline. About the classifieds part, this classified part is being taken care by advertising department, and it is not written by the publication people. Now this entire printing part is again taken care by the technical team. So you got a roughly idea of what a newspaper is and a rough idea of what print media is about. Now let's dive into the resource material which is being provided by Cbse for Cbse students. Okay, before we jump into the notes provided by Cbse, I want you students to have a rough understanding how print media works. So newspapers and magazines, these are the two mediums which we count as print media. These are the two products that we count as print media. There are other products also, like tabloids or brochures also, but right now we will just focus only in these two products. Where in TV and film, you must have read that there are three stages, like pre-production, then production, and post-production. In print, we don't have such categorization. Okay, but for your understanding, please mark my words. Only for your understanding, I am dividing entire process into 3 steps. So the first part is planning, then second part is editing, is writing, then in the third part is editing, and the last part is designing. So these 4 steps come under the category of pre-production. Like before a newspaper or a magazine gets printed, these steps are important. Then next step is printing. The actual product gets printed on a hard copy, on a paper, in a book format. Then that's called production part. And the 6th part is circulation, how the end product reaches to the target audience, like you, me, how it reaches us. It's covered in circulation. It's a part of pre-production. Okay, so this is roughly an idea. Only for your understanding, I have segregated. But in print media, usually we don't have such terms as pre-production, production, and oh, I'm so sorry, not pre-production, post-production. I'm so sorry. Okay, these are the 3 steps for you to understand. Actual product gets printed, This is the designing, the initial part, and this process involves how the product reaches to the client. So these are the basic 6 steps the entire print media revolves around, and there are multiple people involved to carry out these steps. Now I will quickly cover the steps. Now the planning. What is planning? Planning is idea. What is an idea in a newspaper? So there are various topics a newspaper covers. Broadly, they are divided in the form of hard news in a newspaper, hard news and soft news. Okay. So what are hard news? Like politics, then finance, then crime. These topics come under the category of hard news. For soft news, we have entertainment, then lifestyle. These come under the category of soft news. Okay. Now, what is an idea in case? Suppose I write a topic, PM Modi's visit to Ukraine. So it comes under the category of hard news. So that's the idea that I want to write about. There are soft news. Let's say Kartik Aryan's latest movie. Okay, we will talk about Kartik Aryan's latest movie, or then it comes under the category of entertainment and sports news. So this too, that's an idea, the planning part. Usually the planning and writing, they are being carried out by reporters. Okay, reporters, they go on the ground, or they interview people or talk with people. Sometimes reporters they also write stories, but usually they jot down the points and share it to the sub-editing. Usually follow various writing styles like narrative writing, descriptive writing, or informative writing. Follow the inverted pyramid style. So that's a part of where you actually put ideas on paper or on word format. That's the writing part. It's what sub-editors plays a vital role in the third part. The third part is editing. Here it's a desk job. Sub-editing job is a desk job. Whatever stories are being written by reporters or junior editors, junior writers, they come forward to sub-editors. What's the task in editing? In editing, we say the story flow, how the story is, the style, whether it's written. Every newspaper has its own style. So style of the story, then grammar and punctuation, basically proofreading and editing. And now the role from editors, sub-editors desk, the story goes to the designer, and from designer to editor. Editor is the main head person who decides whether to go ahead with the story or not. So before the story reaches to the editor, it has to pass through the step number 4 called designing. DES, designing. In this designing, the advertisement department gives ads, the publishing department gives texts and photos and infographics. Infographics are prepared by graphic designer. So if from designing, it goes to editors. Editors give a final check. Okay, once it's checked, it then goes to the next part called printing, where the actual new prints are prepared. The next part is your circulation. Circulation is when the actual paper reaches to the client, like you and me. So from circulation goes to the distributor then further gives it to local vendor or to the local distributor. Then we will discuss about indices, circulation, the end product, how it reaches to target audience. So I guess you got a rough understanding how this print media rough, and it revolves around this 6 steps. Okay, so now we will dive into the CBSE's main course, main material provided by CBSE, unit 2, chapter 3, print. There are various steps involved in processing a paper. Here you see we will be talking print media, the daily newspaper. I am going word by word. If you have any doubt, any comments, any question, you can just drop a comment below and I will try to explain it. I'm here to help you out. All right, a daily newspaper like the Times of India, it's an English newspaper. Dainik Jagran, it's a Hindi newspaper. Let me tell you, the newspaper that you get at your home, that's a daily newspaper. Sometimes some newspapers are weekly, like once in a week they are published. Some newspapers are fortnightly. Fortnightly means once in a 15 days. Magazines like India Today and Outlook, they are fortnightly magazines. Certain tabloids like Delhi Times, like I'm from Delhi, so I can give you examples of my city, like Delhi Times. Entertainment beat like HT City. Education beat like ET Alive. So there are various weekly tabloids which are being published with the daily newspapers also. So apart from daily newspapers, there are weekly, fortnightly. These days printing of newspapers has reduced due to the too much of integration of Google News and other web products. So printing has reduced a little bit. Now, as you know, the 6 steps I explained in the previous part, here we are going to talk about the organization team. Several individuals work together in different departments of publishing organization. The following are the main departments. Editorial, like the first planning, writing, designing, editing and designing. They are a part of editorial team. In the commercial advertising, I explained you the ad which you saw on the front page and the ad which you saw in the classified page, it's being carried out by the commercial department, the advertising and marketing. I'll explain you what's the difference between commercial and distribution. Management part, of course, every department. See, print media is like an office. It's not like a film production or a television production. Even for news production, TV channels, they have similar management team. In print media is mostly like an office, okay? Policy making, accounts and administration team. Admin who looks after the employees exit and joining time, exit time. Admin department looks after the logistics, the supplies of stationery, paper. If there is a shortage of accounts team look after the payment of the employees. Accounts team also looks after the amount collected from advertisements. Accounts team also look after the revenue collected from circulation. Policy making team looks after the whether the newspaper violates laws or not, they are following a style or not. If suppose a journalist doesn't behave properly with someone and they file a case or they file a complaint, so these policy making people, they look after these advocacy part. Okay, the technical part, printing part. Technical is whoever involves in the printing part, they come under the category of technical. And distribution is circulation. Okay, so this is how it's divided. Now, division of work. All these departments have different functions which contribute to the running of a newspaper. The content of the newspaper can be broadly categorized as news and news related on one hand and the commercial one on the other hand. The editor, what does this mean? What does this mean? News and news related on one hand and commercial on the other hand. It means commercial part is advertisements. Okay, news part is the hard news and soft news that we discussed. Okay, the editor and his team prepare the news content. I explained you. Advertising and marketing department looks after the advertising. Small, the ones that you see in the classified, and big, the ones that you saw on the front page, and the other related areas. Top management frames the overall policy of the newspaper, which the editorial team has to follow. Like I mentioned you, the policy of the newspaper, like you cannot write against one particular political party for money. You cannot write by suppose I have a business and I pay you and you write a story on me. You cannot write that. That's a paid news. You have taken money for writing a story. So these are certain rules which you have to follow if you are employed by a newspaper. All right. The printing or the production department sees it that the required copies of the paper are printed on time. Okay, on time the papers are printed. Then the distribution department ensures the timely delivery to the main distributors. Okay, so after print, it goes to main distributors, and from main distributors it goes to the vendors and the news agents. Okay, vendors and news agents. Now, what are the tasks involved in circulation? Basically, a paper from a city, it maps that within this area I want to sell my newspaper. So these vendors and agents, they take this paper that respective diameter in every nook and cranny of the city, and it's outlying Mofussil and rural areas. In internet, you will go for and find out the real meaning of Mofussil. Mofussil means tiny places near the city. Now, if this is a city and at a distance of 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers away from the main city, we call it countryside. So you will find places, then these are called Mofussil. And if suppose a place is quite far from the main city, let's say 50 kilometers or 60 kilometers, then that's a rural area. Okay, so that's the task of the distribution department, to distribute the newspaper to every nook and corner of the city. Cranny means nook and corner of the city. The circulation and marketing department assists in the massive exercise every morning. Now what happens? The print, basically papers are usually printed late night. From that point, the circulation department takes the print and share it to the main distributors. Then distributor employ people and circulate the paper, and it's an entire night process. So in the morning hours, reporters, editors, journalists, writers, sub-editors, designers, they all work hard to give a shape to the newspaper. Then the printing team works hard to get the printout, right number of copies, and the marketing and circulation department works entire night to circulate the paper. Okay, so that's how a print media is the structure. Now let's learn the process. It's the editorial department that is responsible for gathering and processing of news. It is also responsible for the design and layout of the paper. It's a department that turns the name of the paper into a well-known brand, which goes a long way in increasing the circulation readership of the newspaper. Now I will quickly tell you that the points that I mentioned, that one, planning, writing, designing and editing, like these 4 points, they all are the responsibility of the editorial department. Okay, and now here we come across this word, a well-known brand. How can a paper become a well-known brand? If your paper is providing accurate news, if your paper is informative, if your paper is engaging, and there are other parameters also, but if mainly these three are fulfilled, then definitely that paper will have a good fan following and a good readership. Now what is the difference between a circulation and readership? It's a quite important question. 3 times this question had been asked in Cbse board exams. So circulation and readership, the difference is that, I'll give you a very simple example. I buy a newspaper, one newspaper, and bring it home. In my home, I have 6 members: my mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, a brother, and me. So we are 6 members. So once the copy reaches to my house, that newspaper, I buy it from a stationery shop and take it to my home. These 5 people, they are going to read from that same newspaper. Okay, no one is going to buy a new one. Some buy. I'm just giving an example. Now here, the number of copies sold is 1. And how many people read that newspaper? 6. So circulation number is 1 and readership number is 6. Circulation, it means number of copies sold, number of newspapers sold, and readership means number of people who read the paper. Okay, all right, impressions basically. So now let's move further and read about it. The editorial department is the creative organ of the newspaper. It is managed by writers and rewriters. The writers are the editor and his assistant, as well as reporters and correspondents. The rewriters are called sub-editors. In the jargon of the profession, the sub's edit copy refers it is sent down to the compositor in the printing department. The desktop publishing has eliminated the roles of the compositor and the layout artist and has simplified the production process considerably. Now, what is this process? What is this? I'll tell you over here. What is this process actually? So in the previous video, we learned what idea is, like hard news or soft news. These reporters, they go on the ground to collect newspaper. These reporters go on the ground and collect the actual information. They share a raw file to the junior writers or rewriters. Now from these junior writers, what they do, they just share points and raw file, whereas junior writers, they give a shape to the story. Okay, then from junior writers it goes to sub-editor. Sub-editor is a wonderful person because the task of a sub-editor is to refine the text. Okay, I explained you what editing is in the previous part. So refine the text, also look to the photos which are needed for the text, and also the infographic. From this part it goes to the designer. All right, the designer designs or layout. These days we don't have layout artist, but earlier there was a position layout artist. Right now desktop publishing has evolved a lot, so we just have designer, graphic designer. From designer, the copy then goes to the editor. Editor is the head. Editor gives the final check. If there are errors, then they are again rectified to the designer, sent to the designer and rectified. So once the final copy is ready, it then moves to the printing department. Okay, I hope you understood this entire process. All right, Then I'll tell you what desktop publishing is. There are few softwares called as Quark Express and Adobe InDesign. So basically these softwares are being used for desktop publishing. Okay, now let's move ahead.